Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's just after 1 p.m. on this Tuesday here. I wanted to spend some time, just jump on our digital platforms and talk more about the icy weather that could be in tap for us here tomorrow. And this gives us a chance to talk a little more in depth than the 3 minutes you get on TV. Also gives us a chance to talk to our viewers who might be watching from wherever. Before we get started, if you could let me know where you're watching from, would appreciate hearing that. In addition, you got any questions? Remember, I like to take those Facebook Lives, the Twitter here, we're on Twitch, YouTube, and like to answer those questions at the end. So let me know, and we will get back and check those, or you can wait a little later on as well. And we may answer a number of your questions as well as we go here through the thing. First off, tomorrow is all about the temperature. That temperature, a degree means big differences here. If you're sitting at 31 or you're sitting at 32, water freezes there, right? And so that certainly would play a role with how things go for us. And timing going to be key for that. We think here overnight tonight, notice pretty quickly, 10 o'clock, mid-upper 20s across a good chunk of the region. If you're watching with Kevin tonight at 10 p.m., you might check in for the last update before the morning gets here tonight. You see the temperatures near you are in those mid-upper 20s. That probably should make you a little suspicious. We'll say that. If for some reason we're still in the low 30s, maybe tomorrow doesn't pan as concerning as it could end up being here, but I tend to go with that mid-upper 20s is a problem. And through the night, we may slowly warm up into tomorrow here. 8 a.m. still 29, 10 a.m. 31, 32, 34 into the afternoon, so you get the idea here. All of us are going to experience something different from this. Some of us here down towards I-70 might be get that 32-degree mark a little earlier. Some of us north of I-74, maybe we don't quite get to the 32-degree mark. So that is something that could be a problem for us here. I want to take some time. First off, I'm going to talk a little bit about ice in particular here. When we look at things, we're talking about freezing rain for this one for a key reason. There is snow falling aloft as this moves on through, but our warm layer of air is deep enough to where as that snow falls and hits that, it melts completely, and that leaves it no trouble to become freezing rain. The ground, shallow layer of cold air at the surface like we'll be having, well, that's going to cool things off. And when that wet rain hits that frozen ground, it freezes. And that's why we have freezing rain. If that layer of warm air wasn't as deep in the atmosphere above us, maybe we'd have sleet. We've seen sleet several times. And of course, if it's all 32 degrees or below, that's when we get that cold air. Let's talk here about that black ice that can form from freezing rain. First off, some tips for you. If you happen to hit some freezing rain, remember your steering wheel, keep it straight. You don't want to be swerving. You lose control even quicker. Avoid braking. You want to coast through that ice. That's key. Take your foot off the accelerator and just coast. Focus on trying to get through that and keeping things straight. And of course, take it slower as well. There are some things that we will notice about that freezing rain and black ice. When it forms, it tends to get bridges first. And I'll explain more why that's the case coming up, but we'll see that. And we may very well see some roads that become slick with a glaze of ice possible on them. So that is something that we are going to be watching. I'm going to talk here about the impacts. Where are the greatest impacts from this? Well, first off, when we look here, I'm going to call for high impacts for McLean, Livingston, Ford, Iroquois County, and Benton County, Indiana, basically north of I-74. This is where the freezing rain and drizzle will last the longest. It may not start here tomorrow morning, though. It may be more mid-late morning before it gets that far north. And then through the afternoon and into tomorrow evening, I think that's going to be a problem for us here. Lesser impacts here, still medium, I-72 corridor. And you get the idea here. As we go further south, we warm up quicker and we avoid the impacts as much. Going north and west here, that's where those impacts are going to be the greatest from this particular event here. And your untreated surfaces don't really stand a chance. Elevated bridges, elevated surfaces, they'll be in perhaps some slick spots. And at times we could have main roads that also have some issues. So that's what we're going to watch and keep a very close eye on. Even though we're in the orange here, doesn't mean, oh, I'm not in the worst spot. That's north of us. We could still have some problems in Champaign. And Matt Toon sitting in the yellow, oh, low. There may be a period of time briefly where that comes down, the temperature is below 32, where that could be an issue. So just be aware of that. This is to kind of illustrate how things will pan out, but we're going to see and experience different things, mainly because of that temperature. I don't think this forecast at all here has changed much. The Wednesday, the morning, that freezing rain. By the afternoon, we start to get that steadier cold rain. We're in the 30s still. I think we put this out a couple of days ago here over the weekend. Some of us, though, the change here is the afternoon may end up keeping some of us below freezing, especially north of I-74 and that high impact area. So some of us still dealing with freezing rain here. And then by the evening and night, once the sun goes down, that warm front begins to lift north. We're not going to get that warm air as far north, but I do think that some thunderstorms may be possible with that coming on through. So wouldn't surprise if you heard some rumbles of thunder out there Wednesday evening, Wednesday night. Let's walk you through this on Future Track here. Today, things are fine. Conditions are good. Overnight tonight, notice those temperatures are slipping. We're still in the upper 20s here. This is a little warm, I think, compared to where we actually will be. It has us at 31 in Champaign. If we're at 31 in Champaign at 2 a.m., even at 10 p.m., I feel a lot better. If we can keep those 20s more north, all that's doing is below freezing air is priming surfaces. So that means it's icing down the trees and the power lines and the bridges and the fences in your car. And when that rain falls and hits that frozen surface, it can stick. The rain may not come, though, here. The freezing rain and drizzle may not come till 7, 8, 9, and even later than that here. It may be fairly light at times, but with the surface temperatures still below freezing, we might even still be at 29 in some spots here towards I-74. Regardless, we're below freezing. That's the key. But as that comes on in, then we see that some of that freezing drizzle spreading on in, and it may linger into the afternoon here. Notice then afternoon and the evening, it starts to increase a little bit more north. Some areas up here may be fine in the morning, but by that afternoon round, that's when things could really deteriorate. Freezing drizzle is just a finicky little thing. It is really tough to nail down, and it is very unforgiving when it happens here. So that's why there's some heightened concern. If this was a little bit of snow, no big deal. But this freezing rain can be the great equalizer for vehicles on the roads. I don't care if you have the biggest tires and the best winter tires and the dual wheelie truck and all these fancy things that are on there to keep you on the roads. You've got a Subaru that keeps you on the road. It gets that snow down really great. When it comes to ice, it doesn't matter. That ice is indiscriminate. It'll take everyone and mess with you if you're not careful. So that is something to worry about. You'd understand here that the afternoon, 34, 38, that's just a cold rain. Not a fun day, but not seeing the impacts to the south there like we are in other spots. And that's something we'll continue to watch. And even at 7 o'clock, we've never gotten above freezing. Places like Bloomington, Pontiac, Watseka, barely here. A degree makes all the difference, Champaign and Danville. And we're still seeing those mid-upper 30s at 7 p.m. to the south. Then the warm front after 7 p.m. begins to lift more to the north. We start getting our first 40s and see these little clusters of yellow here. To me, that is an indication of some thunder shower activity. And that thunder shower activity could have some noisy rumbles there. There also could be some small hail, maybe some sleet mixing on in and some grapple. And so that wouldn't surprise me if we had a few reports sneak on in, even with temperatures where they are. And there goes those thunderstorms here. The warm air starting to lift north. It's kind of weird to think about here. Effingham's been in the 30s all day, but by midnight, they could be in the upper 40s and low 50s. What? 31 in Pontiac, 51 in Effingham, and that warm air continues to lift north here. 4 a.m., Future Track says, hey, it's 57 in Effingham. 44 in Champaign. That warm air is helpful because if there is any ice, this is not something that's going to last well into Thursday here. It's a one-day thing. Wednesday, and once we hit above freezing, we're okay. We're also finally getting above freezing here to the north and probably stay there through the day on Thursday. So Thursday, no problems. Not a day you need to prep and hunker down and stay cooped up for a number of days here. We'll have some rough hours on Wednesday, but Thursday's fine. So no issues with Thursday forecast. Here's that freezing rain forecast. I'm going to go with maybe up to a tenth, if not a little more, in that area that has the highest impact, just because we're adding freezing rain through the day. These areas up here are not able to get rid of that freezing rain early on. We're going to call for a glaze possibility here to the south, and that's enough to still cause some slick spots. So the good news on this is while travel may become a little bit troublesome at times, I don't think this is an issue for us as far as power outages go. More on that here in a second. Again, reiterating the timing, some of us tomorrow morning out the door will be like, what rain? What freezing drizzle? I look forward to that message in my inbox. Some of us are going to have to wait till mid to late morning here. But in general, the more we go through the morning, watching those temperatures, that's when we're going to have that issues. And we probably see our highest impacts 9, 10, 11, noon. From south to north, then that rain change happens, but there'll still be some areas that are having problems there into the afternoon and evening. And so that is a concern for us where we'll see those impacts slowly wane from south to north. So we talk about black ice a lot. It's not really black ice. It's just dark ice that's on the roads because the roads are dark, right? And that thin layer of ice is very hard to spot. Your tires just spin on it. I mean, it can't catch any traction there. And so you can have some issues with that and causing slick spots. And we also talk about bridges being places that can have more trouble. Well, if the ground is warm, and it's okay here, when that cold air goes under the bridge, we're just icing that bridge down. Think of throwing some extra ice in your beverage to cool it off here. Notice it's still 34 here on the road, but it's down to 30 as that cold air goes underneath and cools off that bridge below freezing. That's why those slick spots can appear a lot quicker on bridges first compared to regular roads. But still, there could be slick spots in the regular road as well. You just want to be careful if you happen to be going out here with that. All right, so power outages, again, yes, we may be accumulating a little bit of ice. The wind seems to be staying down, and we're warming up enough fairly quickly for many of us where I don't think it's a problem. There could always be a few isolated outages. If there are a few scattered outages, probably northern Livingston, Fort Iroquois County. But I really don't see that being a major issue here. This is not one of those ice storms that pulls down lines all over and power outages for days. We are not going to have that here, folks. If anything, some inconvenience from travel expected Wednesday. Yeah, a couple of spots could have some outages. You know, you get enough ice on a weak limb and it comes down in the right spot. Someone might lose power. Somebody might slide off the road and take out a power pole. I mean, those things happen, but this is not an ice event that is going to cause widespread power outages. So no concern about that here. It's the glaze that focuses this on travel for us here. So in summary, for our viewing area, a glaze of ice, some could be over 1/10 of an inch there north of I-74 where that freezing drizzle and rain continues through the day here. We do have some wind gusts 15 to 25. There's not enough ice, I think, to cause those power outages. Once you get closer to 1/4 inches, when we really start to worry about that. But again, I'm not going to rule out a few isolated here and there. Temperatures as well, that's the key. If you want to be at home, you got a weather station, you can always check your weather app as well, find out your local temperature, what that is. That'll tell you the story. Some of you will see rain and you'll see it freezing on contact in your car, even once it starts driving. Others of you, if you're above freezing there, might just stay wet to not deal with that. So that temperature makes the difference. And again, a slow warm-up comes from south to north that keeps this from being a long duration event for us. Although, yes, some of us may have some issues that last into Wednesday afternoon towards the I-70 corridor north, places like McLean, Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. And that's why we do have that potential for some slick roads from the freezing drizzle and the freezing rain. Real quick here, I'm going to answer questions in a little bit. So if you have a question, now's a great time to throw it in the chat. We got to talk about the rest of February. We're not done yet. Here's the system coming Wednesday. It clears through pretty quickly. Thursday's probably not a bad day here. Friday, though, our next system approaches. This looks to be a Friday night into Saturday event. At this point, rain would not surprise me if we also had to talk about some freezing rain potential with that system at some point Saturday. Snow, that's going to be north with the Saturday system. But there's another system coming after that here. We're in an active pattern. We've been talking about that. You can see how that snow is showing up more to our south and west here. If we're getting another system next week and one to follow that, systems 3 and 4, that has a much better chance, I think, of being more of a snow event for us. What that exactly looks like, whether it's a lot or a little, I don't know yet. But I tend to think that with cold air coming in, notice the extended outlook here. We're looking February 9th through the 13th here. That cold air settled on in. We're not seeing that warm air as far north here, so we're colder than normal and wetter than normal here in the 6 to 10 day outlook. So that's a pattern that would support some sort of, winter weather. And I do, again, think maybe more snow. We'll keep our fingers crossed that that holds. But compared to the events that we have here now, coming today, should say tomorrow, and potentially in the weekend, that's got more rain and maybe some of that freezing rain. We'll see. There's the 8 to 14 day outlook. Now we're through February 17th, cold air here. And we are thinking at some point some Arctic air may spill on in. If that happens, that could put highs, the teens and 20s. Remains to be seen what that exactly looks like, but I've got some suspicion that the cold is not done yet. And the 8 to 14 day outlook continues to show that wetter than normal conditions. The greatest odds are more south. Well, we're still in the above normal here, but we got that cold air. There's your low track. We're on the north side. That's why I think that some snow maybe in the future for us here across central Illinois. That's just a look ahead. It's going to be an active couple of weeks around here. That's the big story for us, and so that's why we're kind of talking about things here. All right, I am going to, real quick, answer some questions, and then we'll wrap this Canarble wagon up, be on our way. So if you got a question, let me know. If you also want to check the WCI3 weather app, some of you may catch this a little later today. That's totally fine. I think this forecast is valid. Kevin will have the weather at 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. I'll be back in the morning show tomorrow, and we'll keep you updated on that here. All right, let's check some of these questions. Melissa saying she has to travel to Peoria early in the afternoon. I think Peoria, Bloomington, Pontiac, Watseka, that certainly is where some of that freezing rain and drizzle might have the greatest impacts. So you want to be careful on there. There are not enough resources to salt roads like it's needed in freezing rain either. You put some salt down. If it's rain, oh, good, it keeps it from freezing. That water is going to wash salt off. And so we may see, it gets slick and then clears and slick and clears. Typically, IDOT does a great job keeping interstates clear. They'll do the best they can. You're going to see more of your issues on lesser traveled roads, side streets that don't get any salt, things like that. So just be cautious. I think people can still make it, but there may be a period of time where it's a little bit rough tomorrow for some of us. So we're going to watch that closely. What else? Kind of scrolling on through. Doran asking about Peoria. Yeah, if you kind of drew this imaginary line over, it's going to include Tazewell, Fulton, Peoria counties, Woodford counties up here as well. You're looking for someone local over there. Chris Yates over at WMAD, he does a great job forecasting. Give his page a follow. He tends to cover more of those specific Peoria things. We can talk about them, but he's the local guy for up in that area. Then, what else? Emden, that's over there by Lincoln, heading over to Hartsburg-Emden area. Yeah, you're kind of in that orange medium impacts. We probably get that freezing rain a little earlier than folks in the red, but still seems like mid to late morning. And while I'm thinking about this, I should have shown this graphic as well. This is a graphic I posted on social media. My timing graphic kind of talks about the timing here of that. Now, this yellow line north of it, I think, has the best chance for impacts. So you see here in this green area, that freezing rain and drizzle, 6 to 12, it may be warm enough where we avoid any problems here for places like Effingham, Vandalia, maybe into Cumberland County. But if it happens, that's the time to watch, depending on that surface temperature. I'm going to go 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. for that freezing rain and drizzle chance in here. We should see us slowly increase. Some of us may be done by 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, if you get that idea. But then I've got this broad 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in that high impact area where that freezing rain may last through much of the day on and off and lead to issues in parts of Livingston, Ford, McLean, Iroquois counties. So that is something that we will keep an eye on here. That may barely graze northern Vermilion, northern Champaign counties as well. The weather does not follow county lines, but you get the idea here. And if you're heading out 74 west towards Peoria, 57 north towards Kankakee, places like that, that's where we could certainly have some of those issues come about. But I think this also kind of gives you the idea of the timing of things here. So that's what we'll be watching. Marcus is asking, how can it be 67 yesterday and now freezing rain tomorrow, right? Yeah, it's kind of wild. One of the reasons is we've got a lot of warm air aloft, but that cold air that came in here, you might have noticed last night if you were out. I went out to the grocery store real quick, about 8 o'clock or so, and those clouds were low, and that north wind was bringing that cold air. The layer of cold air here at the surface is really shallow compared relative to the atmosphere. Above us, it's actually fairly mild up there, above freezing, and that above freezing temperatures aloft means snow falls from the atmosphere as it forms. It melts up aloft and then hits this cold layer at the surface, and that's when we get that freezing rain. Just a very shallow layer of cold air that is a nuisance for us here. And I'm someone who does not like freezing rain. I think if the hardest things to forecast, freezing rain, fog, low cloud cover, and they're all typically responsible due to a small, short layer of cold air near the surface, makes it really hard to forecast. Dixie's asking, is a weather advisory going to be issued? Yes, I expect a winter weather advisory for at least some of us to come this afternoon. National Weather Service, the afternoon shift gets in, and sometime between 2 and 3, they'll probably come out with it. What it exactly looks like, not quite sure, but I suspect it's going to include up here in that higher impact, and then we'll see how far down they go with that. I mean, it could be Lincoln and over towards Menard, Cass counties, and maybe I-72 to Champaign and Danville. It may not include counties to the south, but again, the weather doesn't always follow the county lines. We issue those alerts for that. So there could also be some last-minute updates. We may wake up tomorrow and say, oops, that cold air is even colder than we thought. We need to move that down. Or, hey, we woke up, it's already 31 at 6 a.m. Good news. Maybe it's not going to be as much of an impact for us. But again, freezing rain is the type of thing where it can be fine 1 minute and then 10 minutes later, you can have slick roads out there. I mean, it can literally, I can think of a couple times here that we've had since I've been at WCIA where, it seemed like the snap of a finger, all of a sudden started getting calls and wrecks and slide outs that started really coming on in. So it can be a little bit of an issue for that. Aster kind of asking about the morning hours again. I think this might help illustrate that a little bit. Some spots here might have to wait a little bit longer. Might be more like 9-10 start time. We're going to leave it a little broad to account for perhaps a little drizzle there. But that is something that we'll keep an eye on. Connor asking, will this cause the ground to harden back up? No, this particular one won't. In fact, we'll probably be in the 40s as we go to Thursday. If we're looking for the ground to freeze back up, that might be next week. If we get some of that Arctic air to really sit on in here. So that won't be quite what we will experience from this, but I think that we're not done with winter yet for the month of February. So with that will wrap up this video here. Got some questions answered. If you need more information, be sure and head on over to the WCI3 weather app or read the Weather Now forecast. That's going to have the latest information for you there, and we will keep you updated through the afternoon with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Leidy. He'll be on air tonight, and then I'll be back on the morning show tomorrow. Take care. Have a great rest.